Good deal.
I didn't know what to talk about other than really the free agency, and there's a few stories like you know uh, Rick Tocchet is the head coach at Arizona, and there's a few things that have happened, but mostly what I had was the free agency signings. The transactions,
Yep.
and that's basically it. I mean, you could talk a little bit about the Cup making its rounds in Pittsburgh, but
Yep.
there's not a heck of a lot to talk about.
Nope, there isn't.
I
So,
just got off the KHL website, and they start up August the 21st.
oh, they
So in
start
less
right
than
up.
a month. Yeah.
So their training camps must be starting here pretty quick.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a little bit of news about them, but I think the next podcast, you could really start cranking it up on them.
Yep, probably. That'll give us something to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I am ready to go when you are.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. So I got it all together.
All right. You got my show notes, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I got them. I may need to go back out of them and
Well,
see it.
what we'll do, there's a lot of links. There's just not a lot of notes there. What we'll do is, I think probably for the sake of the listeners, because there's basically nothing but listing a whole bunch of transactions, is
Yeah.
we'll go through them team by team.
Okay.
So the listeners can jump around if they so choose.
Okay.
And we'll go through them chronologically, I think, would probably be the best thing.
Okay. Okay. And you got my notes about my pick of the week is Chris Letang and
Yep.
okay. Okay. What else? What else was a major thing that happened? Because we talked about the signing of Connor McDavid on the last show.
Yep.
So, um, I mean, there's been a couple big. I mean, I saw the signing for Mika Zibanejad,
Yeah,
which
that just came through.
went down. That went down yesterday.
Yep.
Um, and I don't know that's close to what they were paying Step on. So,
Yep.
you know,
All right, let's get this thing going so we can get it done. I got to go to work early tomorrow.
okay,
Not
yeah, same.
Not super
Yep.
early, but early
Yep.
enough. All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Hockey Nuts Podcast. My name is Wayne. I'm here with Steve. How's it going today, Steve?
Going good, Wayne. Good to be with you. Looking forward to talking hockey here. I've been itching to get this show going, so I'm looking forward to talk to you about it.
It's been, what, I'm counted 20 days since we last podcast. Probably the biggest gap we've ever had between episodes.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got a lot of time to cover, but really not a whole lot. We were just discussing before the show that there's really not a lot going on. It's pretty much a lot of free agency signings and a couple of other smaller news stories, and that's just about it. So
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll start with getting through all of the free agent signings that have happened since our last recording. We last recorded on July 6th. Today is July 26th as we record this. So that will be the time span that we'll be covering in terms of signings. And but before we do that, let's get some housekeeping out of the way a little bit. Just to remind you, if you want to subscribe to the show, there's many places that you can do so. First and foremost, iTunes is probably the first place that most people get their podcast. You can also find us on Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Google Play Music, Player.fm, and of course any other Android or Apple app that you use to get your podcast. We can also be found simply online. You can listen to us right through your browser. You can find us at thehockeywriters.com, which is a great resource. It's usually a website I check into each week looking for news to talk about in our podcast. But it's also a place where you can listen to a number of different hockey-related podcasts, and we're, of course, listed with thehockeywriters.com. So there's one place you can find us. And then, of course, you can find us right on our website at thehockeynuts.com, and you can listen to past episodes of our show there. And but a bunch of different ways you could support the show. Of course, it is a labor of love for us, but it does cost us money each week to produce. So we're looking at ways for you, the listener, to support us financially if you choose to do so. Obviously, it's not required or anything like that, but if you choose to support us. Right now, we just have a couple of affiliate relationships that we've set up. First and foremost, we have Amazon.com. And we also have HockeyMonkey.com set up as affiliate relationships. And we have links to both of those websites on our website. So if you just go to thehockeynuts.com, click on the advertisement on the right-hand side of the page, that will send you to those two websites. And any purchases you make will send a little bit of a kickback back to us to help us with the production of the show. And, of course, any purchases you make using those links do not increase your purchase in any way. And, of course, if you can't support us financially, there are other ways you can support us. You could share the show with any other hockey fans that you know. You can subscribe to our show right on iTunes. That will help us climb the rankings there. Like, comment, and share our content wherever you find us on the various social media pages. And I'll tell you in a second how you can find us there. And then, of course, we encourage everyone to get involved with the show. We are just a couple of hockey fans. We're not reporters or anything. And we do like interacting with the audience whenever they choose to do so. And as far as getting in touch with us, probably the fastest way to get in touch would be through our Twitter handles. And mine is at WayneHalley9. And Steve is at SBall504Man. You can also email the show at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. And you can reach us through our Facebook page at facebook.com/thehockeynuts. The YouTube channel that we have set up, which we actually live stream the recording of the show, so you can actually watch us record it. And that can be found at thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. So that is pretty much it for the housekeeping. So let's get going. But actually, there's one more thing. Got a clumsy dog. Just knocked my phone on the floor. Gets himself tangled up in the power cord and he drops it. All right. All right, back to that. As far as upcoming shows, it is during the summer months. We are going to a lighter schedule this month. So obviously we're recording now. It's July 26th. Now he's going backwards. Hang on. He goes in reverse and he can't see where he's going. Anyway, August 16th will be our next scheduled recording. And then again on August 30th. And then that show will be the first show where we go back to weekly episodes. And, of course, that show will be our first of our team-by-team previews for the upcoming season. So we'll have this show now. And the next show on August 16th will pretty much be covering the dog days of summer. And then we'll be getting right back into it on August 30th, back to weekly shows. So, and of course, if anything anything big comes up between now and then, we may also insert tiny little mini shows in there if if the events warrant. Nothing really has happened over the past couple of weeks, so we didn't really have the need to do that. So,
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on. So as far as headlines this week that I've got anyway, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but of course we're in the dog days of summer. Free agency is the big topic of this time of year.
That's right.
And, of course, the Stanley Cup is making its round through the Pittsburgh organization. And then the development camps are all wrapped up. So the next thing coming up will be those rookie tournaments that happen every summer. But those don't generally happen till the month of August. And then also I wanted to insert, too, that stay tuned at the end of the show for details on a fantasy hockey league that I'm starting up this fall. I know, Steve, you're not into fantasy hockey. You've never done it before. So I'll just insert a thing at the end. So for those of you who are interested in getting involved in our fantasy hockey league, that'll be pretty much a me thing. And we'll get that. I'll get those details inserted at the end of the show. So, Steve, you don't have to be bogged down by by this stuff that you don't know about. So
wouldn't bog me down. I'll just learn. I'll listen to it and learn.
All right. And then the last headline I have is concerning our local Hurricanes. We do have some news about the team itself that has come out over the past, actually a couple of weeks ago now. So, all right. So let's get going. First things first.
Don't forget when.
Yeah.
Wayne, forget one. I received a very, very good picture from you from NHL store at the end when I insert that. That was really a great big text and a picture I got. So I look forward to hearing about that too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that we'll be talking more about towards the end of the show as well. All right, okay. So let's get started with transactions. Let me pull up my window of NHL signings. All right, we have had a ton of signings over the past couple of weeks. What we probably do, what we discussed, we do just for the sake of the listeners. If you are only interested in one team, we'll give you the opportunity to go ahead and fast forward to your team of choice or teams of choice. What we're going to do is go down team by team, discussing all the transactions that each team has had since July 6th. So anything that happened prior to that, we're not going to talk about. You'll want to catch that on a previous episode or episodes, depending on how far back you want to go. But since July 6th is what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to go team by team, chronological order. So now you've got a pretty good idea where your team stands. So if you're Winnipeg, Washington, you're going to fast forward all the way towards the end of there. But first team we need to talk about this week is the Anaheim Ducks. And they have actually been pretty quiet over the past couple of weeks. I only found 2 signings for them. The Dennis Rasmussen, 27-year-old center, signed a 1-year free agency contract. And
gosh, I don't even have that one.
Oh, you don't even have that one. Okay.
I don't have that one.
Dennis Rasmussen, 1 year, totaling $725,000. He's pretty low in their depth chart, so not surprised you have that one. I just pulled him off a list. A couple of spots that I found the list was on capfriendly.com and sportsnet.ca. So, and the other one I have for the Anaheim Ducks is Alex Dosty, signed a 3-year contract. Totaling $2.775 million, and that gets you to an average cap hit of $759,000 a year. So 2 fairly minor signings for them, and the Alex Dosty was an entry-level deal. Mm-hmm. My son's been playing with my microphone. There we go. So, any comments on those? I don't really have much to say about that. No. Both are pretty minor on that.
Yeah, nothing there.
All right.
Inactivity, basically, for Anaheim. Not very much going on.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much over the past couple of weeks, anyway. All right, let's move on to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one I have for them was back on July 6th. Emerson Etem signed a one-year deal worth $850,000. Tyler Gaudette, center, signed on July 21st, 1 year, $650,000. Jordan Martinook, left winger, on July 22nd, signed a 2-year deal worth $3.6 million. So that's an average cap hit of 1.8 per year. And Mark Langhammer, goaltender, on the 24th, signed a 1-year deal, $660,000. So obviously the biggest name there, Jordan Martinook, left winger, 24-year-old, 1.8 per year for 2 years. I would imagine that will put him pretty much in their everyday lineup with that kind of a hit.
Yeah. Edom, he played for the Rangers. He is a fast skater, but I don't see him on the roster, Wayne, when the season starts. Maybe.
No, those other three guys probably aren't going to be. If they do make the roster, it'll be fourth line at best.
Right. Trying to remember who Phoenix's affiliate is. It's Tucson, right? I believe it's.
Yeah, I'd have to. I'd have to look. Those things change quite often during the summer.
Right, That's do.
Probably something we'll look into a little bit closer as we get closer to the season.
Yeah.
Because I know the affiliations do change. I know it was the Portland Pirates for a while, but obviously the Portland Pirates moved, and I can't. Did they go out to Tucson? Is that where they ended up?
For some reason, I'm thinking it's Tucson because that's
you're right.
where that the gentleman had the heart attack. The Boston Bruins guy.
Oh yeah, Cunningham. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was in Tucson.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Martinook, I just pulled up his numbers. Played 77 games for the Coyotes last year, 25 points. So definitely a role player, 40 penalty minutes.
Right.
In that case. All right. Well, let's move on to the next team. Next team I have is the Boston Bruins.
Yep.
And they've been very quiet this summer.
They have been.
And I was expecting that anyway. I really was. Just because the Bruins have a bunch of young kids coming up through the system that I think they're finally ready to give a chance to. So, but as far as signings they did have, the first two that they had while we were away, it was on July 14th. They signed a pair of goaltenders, Malcolm Subban and Zane McIntyre, both who played in the Bruins organization last year. Both signed 2-year contracts valued at $1.3 total, with an annual cap hit of $650,000. So in case of Subban, that's a pay cut for him. McIntyre, I'm pulling him up. That's also a pay cut for him as well.
Okay, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Where do they fit within the Bruins organization? I mean, we got to see McIntyre a little bit, and then you got Boisdier. Where do they fit now as goalies in the organization?
I think it's up to them to decide at this point.
Okay.
Both players are obviously they had high hopes for Subban because he was a first-round draft pick, and he just has yet to materialize. He has had some injury issues, which has kind of slowed down his progression, but it really depends on those guys. I mean, McIntyre was a guy coming out of college that they had in their system who was a bit of a surprise last year. He did play quite a bit for the Bruins when Hudobin was either not playing well or was hurt. But I think right now, Subban, McIntyre are your two AHL goalies at this point. Vladar, I think, will continue to play down in Atlanta unless he proves he's better otherwise. You know, the track history with the Bruins goalies is one of the four goalies, because you got two in Providence and two in Boston. one of them always seems to be hurt. So Vladar will probably get most of his playing time in the AHL anyway, because the other of the 4 goalies, 3 of them will be covering the other 3 spots in those 2 teams. So Vladar is going to get some time in the American Hockey League. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Right.
And they do have high hopes for his value. The reason he's been playing in Atlanta is he's the everyday goalie there. So, and Subban McIntyre will battle it out in Providence, probably tandem for a little while until one clearly plays better than the other. At this point, both were somewhat equals, but you don't know what's going to happen based on how their workouts and stuff go over the summer. One of them could come into camp better than the other, and they'll just Subban and McIntyre will probably play the bulk of the preseason games for the Boston Bruins, and then they'll be sent down to the American League, and they'll just battle it out.
Right.
That's what will happen. But Boston will definitely continue with Rask and Hudobin as the NHL pairing there. So, because Hudobin would have to pass through waivers to go down to Providence. That's the big thing. So, and I believe Subban's and McIntyre's contracts are both 2-way contracts. So that means that tells you right there that they're going to be in the American Hockey League for most of the season.
Right.
All right. The other goalies or the other players that got signed was center Austin Czarnik signed a 1-year contract worth $675,000. Again, I believe that's a 2-way contract. So they don't have. That tells me they don't have a spot for him on the Boston roster at this time, unless he plays his way onto the roster. And then today, Ryan Spooner signed a 1-year deal worth a reported $2.825 million.
I saw that.
And he was up for arbitration. I think the reports were he was asking for 4. The Bruins wanted to give him 2, and they settled on 2.8, which to me I think is a little high for what he gives you, but because I think he's slated to be like 3rd line, I think, at best for the Bruins this year. So to pay 2.8 for a 3rd liner, I don't know. That just seems a little high for me.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, he had 39 points last year. He had 49 points the year before. If he can get back to that 50-point mark, then that 2.8 is definitely worth it. But if he comes in at 30 or less, 2.8 is an expensive number for 30 points. You can get that from a 21-year-old on an entry-level deal.
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned. But
right.
We'll see. All right. Unless you have anything to add about the Bruins, that's all I had to say about it.
No, I think we got that covered.
All right. Let's move on to the Sabres. The Sabres have signed just 2 players since July 6th. On July 8th, they signed Johan Larsson to a 2-year contract worth $2.95, and that gives you an annual cap hit of $1.475 million per year. And goaltender Robin Lehner, who is the de facto starter there in Buffalo until someone comes up and takes his job, he signed a 1-year contract worth $4 million. So the short contract there tells me this is, of course, a bridge deal for him, and that Buffalo is hoping that they may have a goaltender
somewhere down the line very soon.
Yeah, somewhere down the line that may take his job. Who they got a bunch of goalies that have signed with Buffalo. They've signed, let's see, since May 31st of 2017, they've signed 5 goalies.
Yeah.
Buffalo has. So you got Lehner at the top. You've got Chad Johnson, who signed a 1-year $2.5. Adam Wilcox has a 1-year $650,000. Linus Ullmark, 2 years $1.5, and Jonas Johansson is the entry level guy with 3 years $2.775.
Yeah.
So
I think it'll be Chad Johnson and Robin Lehner battling for that starting job.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah.
So obviously Buffalo's not too confident in their goaltending situation because
Right.
signing him only 1 year. All right, well, let's move on to the Calgary Flames. They've been a little busier in the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
Michael Furlan, or Mikhail Furlan, I don't know how you say his first name, right winger. On the 13th, signed a 2-year, 3.5. That's 1.75 a year. Curtis Lazar signed a 2-year, 1.9 for $950,000 a year.
Right.
Garnet Hathaway signed a 1-year, $650,000. That I would guess is a two-way deal. Juuso Valimaki, defenseman, signed an entry-level deal, 3 years, 4.05. That's at the rookie max of $925. John Gillies signed. I wonder if he's related to the Gillies that played goalie. I wouldn't be surprised. Back in the 80s. John Gillies, goaltender, on the 22nd, signed a 1-year, $725,000. And then David Rittich, another goalie, signed a 1-year, $725,000. Those two goalies most likely will be their American League goaltenders.
Right. Yep. That's the two big ones I had were Furland and Curtis Lazar.
Yep.
And from previous podcasts, Wayne, we talked about it. The Calgary Flames are set as far as defense goes. They are looking good. If you look down their roster right now, they've made some good moves.
Their defense is very strong.
Very strong defense.
I mean, they got Giordano. They got Giordano. They got Dougie Hamilton, T.J. Brody, Travis Amonic.
Yep.
I mean, those four right there. I mean,
yeah, they're solid.
Michael Stone as your number 5 guy. Come on.
Yeah, they're solid, and that part of it. And then you got Goudreau, and Weidman's still on that team, right?
Yeah. He is technically, I believe, still on that team, but I don't think he'll be. They might have bought him out, actually.
Yeah.
I don't show him on the roster that I have in front of me. So
they're going to be interested. Goaltending with them is, what I see as being. We'll just have to wait and see.
There's a lot of big ifs there. You got Mike Smith and Eddie Lack in goals. So
yeah.
Those two players are very big ifs.
Right.
I don't see Weidman on that team.
Okay.
So something's happened with him. He may be unrestricted.
Yeah.
I don't know his details. I don't have those right in front of me.
Right.
All right. Yeah. Calgary is going to be a good shutdown kind of team.
Yep.
And then yeah. They're a fairly decent team, and they got some young up-and-coming players as well. All right, well, let's move on to Carolina Hurricanes.
Carolina. They had a little activity.
They've had very little activity since the 6th. They had quite a bit back on July 1st. They signed a couple of free agents and made a few trades since the offseason. So they've made a lot of moves up until, but they've been pretty quiet since then. I only have 2 signings since the 6th.
Yep.
First one's a big one.
Yep.
Jacob Slavin signed a 7-year, $37.1 million contract. That is an average cap hit of 5.3.
What do you think about that deal?
If he continues to play like he did last year, I think it's a good deal. He was a monster for them last year.
Yeah.
Well, of course, Justin Falk had some time on injuries, but other than Justin Falk, who's kind of been their best defenseman to this point, Slavin was by far their best defenseman, not named Justin Falk.
He had a big year.
Yep.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. That is a lot of money. They obviously have confidence. I mean, he had 34 points last year.
Yep.
5 goals, 29 assists. He was on their power play especially when Falk was hurt. Yeah, they obviously like the guy.
Yep.
To lock him up long term like that.
Yep. Well, I wish them good. You know, he is good. He's a stud, and they can, you know, they need it. They need someone like him in Carolina desperately, not just a little bit. They need a guy like Jacob Slavin bad. They need him bad. So, especially with you and I talking playoffs for the Hurricanes, and I'm sticking to it. I think they're gonna make waves, and I think they sneak into the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I agree with you, and we're not the only ones saying that. There's other people around that I follow that think Carolina has done what they need to do to get over. I mean, they didn't miss the playoffs by much last year,
or the year before.
And the moves that they've made since the end of the season, they've done nothing but improve their team. So
right.
And they've got some young up-and-coming players that are coming up that nobody knows about yet that I think are going to be pretty exciting to watch. So,
yeah. Let's just say that, okay, Jacob Slavin, good signing, we'll wait and see.
Yep.
Great signing, I don't know. Good signing, I think it is. They need him. They need him. So, you know, we can talk about it again at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think he is basically your first piece in a long term, putting the pieces together for the cornerstone of a team. You know, every team needs that core 5 to 6 players that's gonna carry the team long term, and they just put him in that group with this signing. So,
you know what? I agree with you.
So let's hope that Ron Francis is right and that he is what they think he is going to be. So. Because if he's not, that could be an ugly signing. But from all reports, he's a good kid, comes from a good family. He's not a hothead by any stretch. So that's probably part of the reason why they like him so much. So, all right, the other signing I had for them is Martin Nikas, the 18-year-old kid that they just drafted this summer, signed on July 14th, an entry-level deal, 3 years, $4.3875 million. With that is the rookie maximum.
That's right.
Of $925 per year.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him at the development camp that the Hurricanes had earlier in the month, and he stood out as one of the better players in that group. So,
very good.
So they've got themselves a good player there. Very fast player. He'll fit right in with the faster players that the Hurricanes have, the Jeff Skinners and the Victor Rask, and he'll fit right in with that group. Good. So we'll see where he ends up if he makes the team this year. No guarantee he's going to make the team. Those entry-level contracts, they can slide him back. If he doesn't make the team this year, that whole 3-year contract slides back a year and starts next year. So, so no risk there for the Hurricanes by signing him now. All right, let's move on to Chicago Blackhawks. They have been fairly quiet over the past week or two. Eric Gustafsson, defenseman, signed on July 14th, a 1-year contract worth $650,000. Probably a 2-way contract at that price, if I had to guess.
Yes.
He is the only player that Chicago has signed.
Yep.
Since the 6th.
I did not have him either. That must have been Sportsnet. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. The Colorado Avalanche have signed several players since the 6th, starting with Duncan Siemens. Defenseman signed a 1-year contract worth $750,000. And all of these contracts that Colorado signed, they're all 1 year. Probably a lot of 2-way contracts in this mix. Felix Gerard, center, signed 1 year, $650,000. Gabriel Bork signed 1 year, $750,000. Jesse Graham signed a 1 year, $650,000. Matt Nieto signed a 1 year, $1 million contract. And Rocco Grimaldi signed a 1 year, $650,000 contract. So all of those happened between the 18th and today, the 26th. Biggest name, obviously, in that group is Matt Nieto. He'll probably be on the team. The rest of them will be two-way players. And Nieto is left wing, right wing is what they have him listed here.
He signed yesterday or today?
He signed the 25th, so that would have been yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And he ended up with 43 games played, 11 points last year. For those who are keeping track. All right, let's move on to the Columbus Blue Jackets. I don't have any signings for them.
Quiet. I haven't got
July
anything.
6th.
Yeah.
Last one I have for them is July 1st. Cameron Gaunce.
Yeah, I've got nothing on them either.
Okay. So they've been quiet. They've been very quiet.
Yes, they
All
have.
right, Dallas Stars have signed just a few players since July 6th. Brett Ritchie signed on July 6th, 2 years, 3.5. That's an annual cap hit of 1.75. Miro Heiskanen is the biggest name to sign probably with them. They signed a 3-year deal with him, 10.275 per year. That's the rookie maximum, $925,000. So obviously a kid that just got drafted. I believe he was picked, third overall? When did Dallas pick, right?
I think that's right.
Yep.
Third pick.
Yep.
That's correct.
And Radek Faska signed a 3-year contract worth $6.6 million. That's a cap hit of 2.2 per year. He'll be on their roster coming up. And Gemel Smith, center, signed a 1 year, $650,000. Another note on Dallas. Let me pull them up real quick. I saw news earlier this week on who's the Russian kid that played for them. We've talked about him several times.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
His name is... His name escapes me.
Oh, God. Nishushkin.
Nikushkin.
Yeah, Nishushkin,
yes. He has apparently, or Dallas has apparently said that he will not be back this year. And because he signed a 2-year contract with the KHL, wants to honor that contract. But it sounds like he will definitely be back in the fall of next year.
Okay.
So he will have another year of seasoning over there in the KHL. And he's going to be a nice addition for them.
Yes, he will.
He is a really good player, Nikushkin is. Valery Nikushkin.
And he'll be coming over with Mr. Moneybags. You know who I'm talking about. Kovalchuk.
You think Kovalchuk will end up in Dallas? Because next year Kovalchuk can sign with anybody.
I think he's going to go wherever he gets a contract, Wayne. I don't think there's going to be 10 teams saying, oh, God, they're paying him 15, we'll pay him 16. I don't think he's going to duke it out with a bunch of teams. I think there's going to be interest at certain places with certain teams.
Every team's going to be interested for a price.
Right. Well, that's true.
And the price will vary from team to team.
True.
Yeah.
I just think there'll be 2 or 3 teams stand head and shoulders above.
But with Radulov already there, and Nikushkin coming back over, Dallas could be in the hunt.
Yep.
Because sometimes those Russian players do like to stick together. So,
yep.
Who knows? I guess we'll find out.
That's right.
Obviously, we know it won't be New Jersey. Otherwise, he'd have come back this year.
He'd
But
be
I also,
sitting
but I
in
also
charge
heard,
now.
I also heard that he wants to play in the Olympics, and that was one factor in him deciding not to come back over this year.
Yeah, if he was gonna be with the Devils, he'd be shooting pucks at the Rock right now.
Yep. All right, and that's all I had for Dallas. So let's move on to Detroit.
Yep. They had a big one.
I've got two signings, and one of them's pretty big. First one is Martin Ferk signed a 1-year contract worth $650,000. It's a 2-year deal. I think he spent some time here in Carolina, if I remember right. And the other one I have for Detroit's a big one of their cornerstone pieces, Thomas Tatar.
Yep.
Signed a 4-year contract worth $21.2 million. That's an average cap hit of 5.3 per year.
Now, in the case of Thomas Tatar, I think that's a good contract. That's well thought out. He's being paid, I think, what he's worth. He is a cornerstone of that team, and he does produce. So that one is a good contract, and I think it for both sides.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Thomas Tatar had 46 points last year, 25 goals.
Yep.
With the right players around him, I think he could have even bigger numbers than those.
I do.
He had 56 a couple seasons ago, so with 29 goals. So with him, the Red Wings have kind of been in decline a little bit, so that can affect his numbers a little bit. But, yeah, I think he's well worth that 5.3 that they're giving him. All right, so that takes care of Detroit. Let's move on to Edmonton. Edmonton has had 4 signings since July 6th. UC Jokinen, former Carolina Hurricane player, speaking of, signed a 1-year contract worth $1.1 million. Most notable or most known for him is his shootout prowess. He seems to be the one guy that seems to be brought up a lot as being very reliable at shootouts. So
his brother's not.
No.
Ole cost us going to the playoffs about 7 years ago against the Flyers, and I won't forget that one.
Yeah, you're still bitter about that one.
I'm not bitter about it. I'm not bitter anymore. I gave it, but Ole Jokinen was the guy. So, anyways.
Well, UC Jokinen seems to do pretty well, but he's 34 years old, so we'll see if they continue to use him in that role or not. Johan Auvitu, is that how you say his name? Signed a 1-year contract worth $700,000. Joey LaLeggia signed a 1-year contract worth $700,000, and Dylan Simpson a 1-year contract worth $675,000. So those last 3 probably two-way players. And then, of course, we did talk about Connor McDavid last week, so talked about his huge contract.
Yeah. He basically is the future.
Well, if I was starting a team today, I probably would start with him too.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. On to the Florida Panthers. They have 2 signings over the past couple of weeks. Mark Pysyk and Owen Tippett. Pysyk signed a 3-year, $8.2 million contract. That's worth $2.73 per year. And Owen Tippett, an entry-level deal, 3 years, $4.975. That's a cap hit of $925 per year for him. So that's an entry-level deal, obviously. Pysyk will obviously be one of their top 4 at that price, I would assume.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to pull up Florida right now. And yeah, Ekblad, Yandel, Demers, Pysyk. Yeah, there's your top 4 for Florida this fall. All right, let's move on to Los Angeles. They signed a whole bunch of players on the 14th and then 1 on the 6th. So go back to the 6th. Nick Shore, center, signed a 1-year deal worth $925,000. That's not an entry-level deal. That's a standard contract. He's 24 years old. So that's one of those, probably third, fourth line guys. And all right, and all the rest of these signings all happen on July 14th. Justin Ogier signed a 1-year, $650,000. Johnny Brzezinski, yep, signed a 2-year, $1.3 million contract. That's worth $650,000 per year. Michael Mersch, 1 year, $650,000. Curtis McDermott. Actually, you can just list the guys. Curtis McDermott, Kevin Gravel, Andrew Krasensky. Why am I having trouble with his name? Krasensi. Zachary Leslie, all signed for 1-year contracts worth $650,000. And then Paul Ledoux signed a 1-year deal worth $874,000. So basically filling up their minor league rosters there.
Yeah.
Filling up the depth on the team the Kings did on that one. So other than all those minor signings, they've been pretty quiet this summer.
I agree.
So far. All right. On to the Minnesota Wild. I've got 3 signings for them since we last talked. Curtis Gabriel, 1-year contract, $715,000. Zach Mitchell, 1-year contract, $660,000. And Steve Michalek,
Yep.
at 1 year, $715,000. So 3 depth signings for them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Montreal Canadiens have been light the last couple of weeks.
Very little work there.
Yep. Charlie Lindgren, goalie. Probably the easiest job in the league is the backup goalie for the Montreal Canadiens. He's got a shot at making the team, although he will have to get around Al Montoya. But anyway, Charlie Lindgren will be probably the minor league team goalie. Signed a 1-year contract, $700,000. Mark Streit, defenseman, signed a 1-year deal worth $1 million. And that has a cap hit of $700,000. So $300,000 of it must be in bonuses.
Right.
So very light for Montreal.
Very light.
Nashville Predators.
Yeah, they had a couple.
They've had a bunch of signings, yes. Frederick Goudreau, Freddie
Yep.
Hockey.
Very good, Wayne. Very good.
He signed a 3-year contract worth $2 million. That's $666,000 per year. Pontus Aberg signed a 2-year deal worth $1.3 million. That's annual cap hit of $650,000. And Mark Mazanik, yeah, signed a 1-year. I was looking at the wrong line. 1-year deal worth $650,000. He's goalie. He'll be the 3rd string at best for them. Victor Arvidsson.
That's the big one.
That's the big one. Signed a 7-year deal worth $29.75 million. That's an annual cap hit of $4.25 million.
Yep.
And Austin Watson signed a 3-year deal worth $3.3 million. And that's an annual cap hit of $1.1. So, yeah, Victor Arvidsson obviously signing that long contract. He's one of those cornerstone players for the Nashville Predators for the foreseeable future. Now, in terms of the Arvidsson signing, 4.2 you think is high, low, about right?
No, I think that they're catching him at the right time. I think that's probably a good signing. They're not overpaying him based on his performance.
He had a great playoffs.
He did. He's a good player. 7 years is getting out there. You know, you and I think we both agree. You sign a guy to 4 or 5 year contract, I think that's as good as you can do, you know, based on today with the salary cap, unless it's unless it's a Connor McDavid or a Sidney Crosby or somebody, you're really getting into the risky side of it. When you sign somebody to 6 or 7 or 8 years, that's a long time, and the league changes so drastically.
Yep.
That
Sure
it's a big risk.
It sure does.
But then again, I'm not a general manager. I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs here in my house.
Well, they obviously think they got something. He had a big year last year, 61 points, 31 goals.
He did.
Last year, 13 points in 22 playoff games in the playoffs.
And he fits in on that team real well, as a goal scorer. So I think they've done the right thing. And, it's $4.25 million is not a terribly exorbitant. I think they got a good deal for that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a very cap-friendly deal, no pun intended.
Right. Oh, that Freddie hockey one, that's going to keep me laughing all night.
I don't think they're even related either. All right, let's move on to the Devils. They have been very busy yesterday and today.
Yes, they have.
Prior to that, though, they only had one signing, and that was a big one. First overall draft pick, Nico Herscher, 18-year-old center, signed his entry-level deal. 3 years, $11.325 million, average annual cap hit of $925,000. Obviously, a lot of bonus money in there. So they're capped at the annual salary at $925 per the collective bargaining agreement, but the bonuses can get pretty big. Signing bonuses and performance bonuses. All right. And as far as the last couple of days, New Jersey's been filling out their minor league roster pretty with a whole bunch of signings. Scott Wedgwood, 1 year, $650. Mirko Mueller, 2 years, $1.7. That's an annual cap hit of $850 per year. Joseph Blandisi, 2 years, $1.36 million, cap hit of $680,000 per year. Stefan Noesen, 1 year, $660. Blake Coleman, 1 year, $660. Blake Patilia, 2 years, $1.335. That's a cap hit of $667,000 per year. Kevin Rooney, 1 year, $650, and Ben Thompson, 1 year, $650,000. All in the last 2 days, all those signings.
Right. Today, they had a big signing today. They signed Brian Boyle to a 2-year, and I believe it's $5.1 million contract today.
Devils did.
The Devils. The Devils signed Brian Boyle.
Okay.
2-year, $5.1 million. I believe it was today.
It has to have been right before we went on because it's not on this list. So.
Yeah, it just happened.
Okay, good.
I read about it on NHL.com.
Good. Then it must be so if they've reported it.
Yeah.
That's a good signing for them.
Add
some veteran depth.
As a Rangers fan, I love Brian Boyle. Yep. He was great on our team, and he really made a name for himself on our team. But obviously he's going where he can get more money, and I wouldn't play for the Devils, but more power to him. He might.
I wouldn't choose the Devils if you're trying to win a cup. That's for sure.
That's right. So.
All right. Well, let's move on to the Islanders, your favorite team.
What a great! I just love the Islanders. Love everything about them. Can't wait to watch them play.
Yep. All right. We talked about the other Sebastian Aho last week. That was where we ended on. They were, that's going to be confusing having two Sebastian Ahos in the league this year. All right. Kristers Gudlevskis, goaltender, signed a 1 year, $650,000. Christopher Gibson, goaltender, 1 year, $650,000. And the big one that they had over the past couple of weeks, Adam Pelech, 4 years, $6.4 million. That's an annual cap hit of $1.6 million per year. So he'll clearly be one of their defensemen on opening night. And the others are just depth signings, minor league signings of the leg. All right, let's go to the other New York team. The New York Rangers.
That's right.
And they've got, I count 5 signings for them since we've last talked.
Yeah.
Elias Anderson, they must have drafted him this year. He's only 18 years old.
He was their first round pick.
Okay.
Number 9.
So he signed 3 years, $5.325.
Yeah.
With a cap hit of $925. Philip Chittle.
Yep.
Left winger, signed his entry level deal. 3 years, $3.825. With a cap hit of $925. And Daniel Catanacci, 1 year, $650,000. Alexander Georgiev.
Yep.
3 years, $2.775. That's a cap hit of $792. And let's see, who's this guy? Mika Zibanejad.
Yeah.
That's the big signing of the day for the Rangers. I saw that one come through last night. 5 years, $26.75 million, a cap hit of $5.35 per year. All right, I know you're going to comment on Zibanejad.
We got to say something. You know, I was actually talking today hockey with a coworker, and he said, "Don't you think they signed him to too much money? It's what Stepan was earning, close to it." So
he
no,
pretty much has Stepan's spot on the roster.
Right. He basically is being paid what Derek Stepan. I don't have the exact numbers, but he's being paid very, very close. If not, he might even be being paid a little less than what Derek Stepan was making. It's a 5-year deal. I think it's a good deal for New York. Especially in light of the trade of Derek Stepan. He's going to take Derek Stepan's place. That's what's going to happen. So it gives him an opportunity to move up. And you're talking about a guy with a hell of a shot. Okay, he's got a great shot. He's good on the power play. As far as his playmaking skills, I think don't know if he's as good as Stepan, but it's a place where he can definitely improve if given time. So, the part that you never know with anybody when you sign them out 5 years is injuries.
Yep.
But I think that's a good signing. I don't think it kills the Rangers. And as far as his talent, you and I both agree he had a good year.
Yep.
Had he not broke his leg, he would have had a great year. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, he was on pace for a career high in points.
Right.
Easily. He finished with 37, but he only played 56 games. But he's your first-line center, so
that's right.
Pay your first-line center just over 5.
Right.
That's, as long as he puts up first-line center numbers, that's a bargain for the Rangers. So
we'll see what happens with Jimmy Vesey,
If he stays healthy, 65 points is not out of the realm for him.
Absolutely not. No, that's a good point, Wayne.
So,
and I see them moving Vesey right on up. So we'll see. We'll see how Jimmy Vesey does with this. So,
okay, well, good. Let's move on to. Now, do you think either of your 2 entry-level guys, or actually 3 entry-level guys, will make the team?
What I'm hearing is mostly coming regarding to Elias Anderson. Okay, I heard that at the development camp he did very well, and so he's going to be given a very long look to make the team. I did not hear about the other guys. Really, the guy that they mentioned was Elias Anderson.
Well,
so
Georgiev is goaltender, so he's down the road a ways,
right?
Because they still got Henrik Lundqvist.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. He might take Pavlik's job, but
Yeah, and you never know. Listen, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, Wayne. I am concerned about that backup slot now
Yeah.
because Antti Ranta was an excellent backup goalie,
Yep.
and he was very humble. He would tell you, well, Henrik Lundqvist likes playing when the pressure is high. Boy, that's true. But so did Antti Ranta.
Yep.
Antti Ranta was very good in high pressure situations as well. So, look, Arizona is getting a starting goalie. It's just like Cam Talbot a few years ago. The Rangers weren't going to be able to hold on to him for long. He played so well, and that's how things go in the NHL. But Andre Pavlik, I don't see him filling Antti Ranta's shoes unless he's taken some magic potion.
They've definitely taken a step back there, and
Yeah.
and I was just joking. I don't think Georgiev is going to be. They're not going to put a guy like that, a 21-year-old rookie essentially,
Yeah.
In the backup role where he's just going to ride the pine.
Right.
If he's any part of the future of that team, they're going to put him in a spot where he's playing every night.
Right.
So he's seen a lot of rubber. So
I agree with you.
So Pavlik definitely is the backup there.
Yep.
Until he proves otherwise. Maybe I don't know who else they have on their depth chart, but
they have Hellberg and Halverson in the AHL, and Halverson is good. He might get a shot as the backup should Pavlik not prove to they're going to give Pavlik chances, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next team. The Ottawa Senators.
Yep.
And they've been pretty quiet.
They have been.
They've signed 3 players since we last talked. Jean-Gabriel Pageau signed a 3-year, $9.3 million per year. Not per year. 9.3 overall, 3.1 per year.
Yep.
Ryan Zingle, 2 years, 3.6. That's 1.8 per year. And Johnny Oduya signed a 1-year contract worth $2.25 million with a cap hit of $1 million. So probably performance bonuses built into that one, which tends to happen with older players. Oduya is 35, so. But those are all 3 players that will be on Ottawa's roster in the fall.
Right.
For sure.
I looked at the deal Jean-Gabriel Pageau got, and you have to agree that his postseason really improved his stock drastically.
Oh yeah.
He played so well,
without a doubt.
So he made oodles of money, millions probably, based on his postseason performance last year.
Yep. Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. So, and they'll probably put him in a spot where he can get more playing time, for sure. All right, let's move on to the next team.
Yep.
Philadelphia Flyers, another one of your favorite teams.
Oh, bristling with excitement about that team.
All right. They have signed 6 players in the last week or so. Scott Lawton, center, signed a 2-year contract worth $1.925. That's $962 per year. Taylor Lyer signed a 1-year contract worth $806,000. He's a left winger. Cole Bardreau, center, signed a 2-year contract worth $1.3. That's $650 per year. Anthony Stolars signed a 1-year contract worth $725,000. Alex Lyon, 1 year, $874,000. And then the big one that they've signed, second overall draft pick, Nolan Patrick, signed. He's a center right wing. Signed his entry-level deal, 3 years, $10.725, with a cap hit of $925, of course, the rookie maximum. Question will be whether or not Nolan Patrick is NHL ready.
Right.
I guess we'll find out. They're definitely going to give him a long look in training camp for sure, and give him every opportunity to make the team. But they can always send him back to junior if they need to.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I've got 4 signings from them. Adam Johnson, center left wing, signed his entry-level deal, 2 years, $1.85 million. That's at the cap ceiling of $925 per year. Josh Archibald, right winger, signed a 2-year, $1.35 million with an annual hit of $675. Derek Pouliot signed a 1-year contract, $800,000. And the big one that Pittsburgh has, Brian Dumoulin, signed just a couple of days ago, signed a 6-year, $24.6 million contract worth $4.1 per year. And doesn't surprise me they signed him. He was actually highly touted. When he was he was drafted, I believe, in the first round by the Carolina Hurricanes. Going back.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yep.
I can tell you that the last 2 Stanley Cups, he's played just tremendous hockey for them.
Yep.
And you know they need a player like Brian Dumoulin, a defenseman.
He's not going to light up the scoreboard. He's not that kind of defenseman.
Yep.
He's more of a stay-at-home guy.
Yep. But a trusted guy.
Yep.
You put him on the ice in any situation. He's a great defenseman. Listen, that's a good signing.
Yep. They're going to need. Pittsburgh needs guys like him for sure.
Absolutely.
They've got Letang. They've got Justin Schultz, Dumoulin, now Oli Mata. There's your top 4 for Pittsburgh.
Yep.
For the foreseeable future. So, and then in front of Matt Murray. So they've definitely shored up their defense.
I agree.
For sure. And just a little note on Dumoulin. Of course, he is a Maine native.
Oh, that's right.
First Maine native to win the Stanley Cup, from what I understand. So, and I know I've got a couple cousins in Maine that are pretty excited. And they're hoping that Dumoulin brings the Stanley Cup back to his hometown in Biddeford, Maine, so that they get a chance to go see or get their picture with the cup. So it's all about them, of course.
Yeah.
All right. All right, let's move on to the San Jose Sharks.
Yep.
They have 4 players since we last talked. Chris Tierney signed a 1-year, $735,000 contract. Rudolph Balkers signed an entry-level deal to 3 years, $2.775 million. That's $759,000 per year. Josef Koronar signed an entry-level deal, 3 years, $2.18, cap hit of $726. And Marcus Sorensen, 2-year contract worth $1.4 million. That's $700,000 per year. No real earth-shattering names there. Coronar and Balsers, those are entry-level deals, so it's a wait and see on what those players will end up doing. San Jose is definitely a team that needs to look towards the future because they're not getting any younger, and I think with the moves that they've made so far this year, that is one of the teams that is going to be weaker going into this year than they were last year.
I think so. Getting Jumbo Joe for another year is only going to help them. So,
but he's not getting any younger.
He's not. He's not in his his knee. Let's see what happens.
Yep.
But last year, this year. It could be their last hurrah.
Yeah, I think their window's closed, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Their time has passed. I don't think San Jose's got a team that can compete with the teams in the West anymore. Too many good teams out there.
Right.
All right, St. Louis Blues. Great. Don't get me wrong, San Jose will make the playoffs, but I just don't see them going deep. Colton Parayko is the big name coming out of St. Louis. 24-year-old defenseman. Signed a 5-year deal worth $27.5 million. That's at a cap hit of $5.5 per year. So he's obviously a cornerstone piece for them. Jordan Binnington signed a 1-year contract worth $660,000. So the Parayko signing, good one for them. Everybody's locking up their defensemen is what I'm seeing.
Yep. And you know, with look, you have Shattenkirk is gone.
Yep.
Boston picked up, and he's, God, I can't believe he's escaping my mind right now.
You talking about McAvoy?
No, who's the big guy they signed last offseason? I can't believe I'm not remembering his name. Came out of St. Louis.
Oh, yeah. Backus.
Okay. I mean, those are two huge defensemen to lose. So signing Colton Parayko was
Backus
must.
Backus is a forward.
That's true.
Yep.
Yep.
But yeah, St. Louis is losing Shattenkirk. They traded him, so they got something for him anyway. They didn't lose him for nothing.
Right.
Backus they lost for nothing.
Yep.
So that really kind of hurt them. But Parayko, he'll be a cornerstone piece for them. He really only has 2 full seasons in the NHL, and 33 and 35 points per, in both of those years. So it's early on him, but they obviously like what they saw in those 2 seasons and weren't afraid to lock him up for 5.5 per year. So he is definitely going to be in their top 4 for a while.
Right.
All right. Next team, Tampa Bay Lightning.
Very big signings for them. You know?
Yep.
They shored up what they had. They did what they had to do.
They've only signed 3 players.
Yeah.
But 2 of them were big. One was Michael Bournival, 1 year, $650,000. But the other 2, Andre Palat, 5 years, $26.5. That's a cap hit of $5.3 per year. And Tyler Johnson, 7 years, $35 million. That's a $5 million even per year.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, pretty good signings as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
For them. 5 and 5.3 still leaves them, I mean, they're a good team.
Yeah, and you throw in they got Dan Girardi. They're paying $2 million, something per year. They signed him for 2 years. Tampa Bay is looking very good.
Yep, they are.
They really are. Yeah,
And
healthy Stamkos.
A healthy Stamkos, that's going to feel like a free agent signing. Because he didn't play hardly at all last year.
Yep.
What did he play last year? 17 games.
Yeah.
Last year. Healthy Stamkos will be huge for them. And with him and Johnson on the same line, that's going to be Tampa Bay is going to be back in the top of the standings this year. But they've got Stamkos, Ryan Callahan, Andre Palat, Tyler Johnson, all locked up for at least the next 3 years. Alex Killorn, Nikita Kucherov for 2 more years. Yeah, they're in good shape.
Kucherov, yep.
They're in real good shape.
Yep.
And then back on defense, Hedman, Strawman, Coburn, Girardi. And Vasilevsky in net. Yeah, Tampa Bay has done a very good job at locking themselves up. They'll be tough.
Peter Budaj as the backup.
And Peter Budaj is the backup. Yep, at a very cap-friendly $1 million, just over $1 million.
They're going to be good.
So
watch out. Tampa Bay's going to be good.
Yep, they're definitely back in the playoffs this year.
Yep.
But we'll get to that later. All right, let's move on to Toronto Maple Leafs. They've actually been very quiet since the July 6th. The only signing I have, Timothy Liljegren.
Yep.
Who's the kid they signed in the first round this year. He signed his entry-level deal. Of course, $925 is the annual cap hit. The deal is total of $3.975. And he'll get every chance to make the team this year. It's a young team, so you might as well let the young players stay together.
That's right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Liljegren makes the team this year. All right, let's move on to Vancouver, who has signed 4 players. Joseph Labate, 1 year, $650,000. Evan McEnany, defenseman, 2 years, $1.315. Cap hit of $657,000. Michael Chaput, 1 year, $687,000. Reed Boucher, 1 year, $687,000. So no major signings there. All fairly minor deals for them.
Mm-hmm.
We're on to Vegas.
They did sign. Oh my God, Michael from Philadelphia, defenseman.
Vancouver did?
Yeah, Vancouver got Michael Del Zotto.
Oh, Del Zotto. Okay.
Michael Del Zotto went to Vancouver.
Yep.
Don't know the details on that contract, but he did sign with them.
He's got an annual cap hit of $3 million per year.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the Vegas Golden Knights. They have been fairly busy. They've had 5 players sign, all on July 15th.
Right.
Brendan Leipzig, 2 years, 1.3. Griffin Reinhart, 2 years, 1.6. Nick Suzuki, 3 years, 4.162. That's an entry-level deal. So it's got the cap hit of $925 per year. Eric Brandstrom, 3 years, 4.125. Cap hit of $925 per year. And Cody Glass, 3 years, 5.325, with a cap hit of $925 per year. So those last 3, Glass, Brandstrom, Suzuki, are the 3 players that Vegas drafted in the first round of this year's draft.
That's correct. They signed them all.
So they signed all 3 of them to entry-level deals. And we'll probably give them every chance to make the team going right out of camp.
Yeah.
Because they're not a good team at all. They're not going to be a good team this year, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But they're going to sell a lot of tickets.
Yeah, they will.
All right, moving on to the Washington Capitals. They've made 3 player signings since we last talked. Philip Grubauer, the backup goalie to Braden Holtby, signed a 1 year, $1.5 million contract. His job is pretty well set as Holtby's backup. Wayne Simpson signed a 1 year, $650,000, as did Liam O'Brien. Same terms, 1 year, $650,000.
Yep.
So the big name there is Grubauer.
They got him.
Yep. They managed to get through all the expansion draft and everything else without losing him. Pretty remarkable. Well,
that was.
The player that they gave up was probably better, the defenseman there. What's his name? Anyway, let's move on to Winnipeg. Brandon Tanev, on July 10th, signed a 1 year, $700,000. Andrew Kopp, 2 year, $2 million. That's a $1 million per year cap hit. Mason Appleton, 3 years, $2.275. That's an annual cap hit of $741. J.C. Lippin, 1 year, $650,000. And Connor Hellebuck, goaltender, 1 year, $2.25 million.
That was a big signing, really.
Hellebuck was probably the biggest of those, with the second to Andrew Kopp. Rest of them are pretty much minor leaguers.
Right.
Or up and down players, depth players. All right, that's it. Did I miss a team?
No, we got it.
Okay. So you are now caught up on all of the transactions or there actually haven't been any trades since we last talked. Remarkably,
Nope.
not a
Yep.
single trade. So the only transactions that have happened is just free agent signings.
That's correct.
All right. I want to list real quick before we move on the players that are currently restricted free agents that have yet to sign, that have filed for salary arbitration, that still have yet to have their arbitration meeting. And, of course, if any of these players, a lot of them will probably end up getting signed before their arbitration hearing. Usually only one or two players end up going to arbitration because neither side likes it. So, anyway, Buffalo Sabres, Nathan Beaulieu, his arbitration hearing is scheduled for August 4th. Minnesota Wild's Michael Granlund and Nino Niederreiter. Granlund is on August 4th, Niederreiter on August 3rd. The Islanders, Calvin DeHaan, has his arbitration hearing scheduled for August 2nd. Penguins, Connor Sheary, his arbitration hearing is set for August 4th. And Vegas's Nate Schmidt, speaking of defensemen gotten from Washington, there he is. His arbitration hearing is August 3rd. And those are all the arbitration hearings that have yet to happen, and those players are probably players we're going to see come across the waves here in the coming days. All right, as I said before, there were no trades. So let's take a quick look at the current list of unrestricted free agents that are available. Let's see some of the best ones that are out there. Vanek is probably the best one that I see in terms of, points scored anyway. Vanek, Yager, Mike Fisher, Andrei Markov, Brian Giunta, Matt Cullen, P.A. Parento, Shane Doan, Jerome McGinley, Mike Ribeiro, Daniel Winnick, Alex Chason, Drew Stafford, Laurie Korpikoski, Cody Franson, Scotty Upshaw, Francois Beauchemin, Dennis Weidman, Rene Bourque, Dwight King. Those are the top 20 in terms of points from last year of the players that are still available as unrestricted free agents. Fedor Tutin, Roman Polak, Nate Prosser, some of the defensemen that are available. So, still some names out there.
Yeah.
Nothing that's going to...
Yes, sir.
Nothing that I see.
I noticed that Jimmy Hayes.
Yeah,
Jimmy Hayes.
Jimmy Hayes is on that list.
Yeah. So Boston may have got rid of a problem for nothing.
Well, they bought him out. They bought him out.
Yeah.
It didn't cost them nothing. They're still paying something for him because of the buyout. All right, let's move on to some of the other stories that we've seen come over in the past couple of weeks. First things first. The first one I saw, Brian Campbell announced his retirement from the Chicago Blackhawks. But he's not leaving the game. He's going to join the Blackhawks front office as a special advisor of business and hockey operations and will work in marketing, community relations, and with their youth hockey initiatives. Campbell had 17 points in 80 games with the Blackhawks last season. He signed a one-year deal with the Blackhawks back on July 1 of last year as an unrestricted free agent. He had 504 points in 1,082 NHL games with the Sabres, Sharks, Blackhawks, and Panthers. He was the Sabres' sixth-round draft pick in the 97 NHL draft. He helped the Blackhawks win the Stanley Cup in 2010 and won the Lady Byng Trophy in 2012 when he had 6 penalty minutes in 82 games with the Panthers. So that's not bad, 6 penalty minutes for a defenseman.
Right. It is, yeah.
So, good player calling it quits, moving on to the front office. So I guess he decided he'd rather quit the game and continue to stay with the Blackhawks organization than to try to find a job elsewhere.
Good thinking.
Yep. All right. Another one I came across was kind of funny. I don't know if you saw this story. It's about Sidney Crosby's little sister.
I did see this.
Yep.
Yes.
She is a goalie for the St. Cloud State University women's hockey team. And apparently on her bio reads, of course, you have, their stats and whatnot. Well, under the personal category, it says that I lost it here for a second. All right, Taylor Crosby. She's a junior for the St. Cloud State Huskies. Says she's the daughter of Troy and Trina Crosby of Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia. Older brother Sidney also plays hockey.
Yeah. Sidney Crosby. Yeah, I do know who he is.
Yep. Kind of poking fun. They're saying, older brother Sidney also plays hockey. Like, oh, yeah, by the way, she's got an older brother. His name's Sidney Crosby. And yeah,
let's get back to her, though.
He plays hockey. Yeah, but yeah, the more important thing, was an honor student at Shattuck St. Mary's. She intends to major in mass communications and minor in business at St. Cloud State. So, yeah. No word that the sentence came from Taylor herself or the St. Cloud Athletics Department, but yeah. So, by the way, yeah.
She does have a brother, Sidney, who does play hockey.
Yep.
Have you heard of him?
I've never heard of him. I don't know.
What obscure name is that, Sidney Crosby?
We'll have to look him up. All right, another story I came across is kind of a nice charity event. It's the, let's see, this article I found on NHL.com. Johnny Gaudreau and Jack Eichel are playing, or did play, I think it was, did play for a charity event in Boston. Of course, both guys are from Boston originally. The article reads, like most NHL players, Calgary Flames forward Johnny Gaudreau looks forward to some downtime in the summer to rest and heal after a long season. But there's one off-season event Gaudreau always makes time for on his schedule, much to the delight of Pat Mullane, an organizer of the annual Calm Ave Charity Classic, which pits notable Boston College and Boston University alumni against each other at Walter Brown Arena. It's amazing. Johnny will reach out to me and play, Mullane said. He'll say, when is the game this year so I can schedule my summer around it. That says something about him as a guy. The third edition of the event, so this is the third year they've done it, took place this last Friday. And even with the Boston Red Sox hosting the New York Yankees down the street at Fenway Park, area hockey fans contributed $64,481 at the game, which benefits the Travis Roy Foundation and Compassionate Care ALS. CCALS has grown in prominence here because of the plight of former BC baseball player Pete Frates, who was the creator of the Ice Bucket Challenge, who also has ALS. You put the rivalry aside, you put the game to the side, and you worry about what the real cause is, Gaudreau said, and it's great to be part of it. There were plenty of familiar names in the lineups. For the Boston College, of course, this is Boston College versus Boston University alumni, right? So for BC, they had, of course, Johnny Gaudreau. They had Rangers forward Kevin Hayes, New Jersey Devils goaltender Corey Schneider, played on the BC side. On the BU side, you had Jack Eichel and Minnesota Wild Charlie Coyle playing for BU. Gaudreau received a warm response from the fans who scored 2 goals, but BU won the game 8-6. Eichel scored twice for BU. Everyone knows who Jack is and wants his time, Elaine said, but for him to give up a night to come here for us has been great. Boston Bruins defenseman Charlie McAvoy also participated in the game. for the first time as an NHL player. He played 6 games in the playoffs after leaving BU following his sophomore season. He said, it's really special. It's obvious. It's such a great cause. It's unbelievable to come back. It's a small thing for you to dedicate one night to coming out and playing the game you love. And proceeds and the support that you get from everybody makes it pretty special. So in the past 3 years, they've raised more than $170,000 for the to the cause. And it looks like this game is going to continue to happen for years to come. Now, for those of you who are from New England, you have to be living under a rock to not know who Travis Roy is, or Pete Frates, for that matter. Of course, Pete Frates was the guy who came up with the Ice Bucket Challenge, which for one summer a few years back everybody was doing.
Yeah.
But Travis Roy is a player who, and I can't remember the year exactly, but it was in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere in that area. Was a freshman at BU, and in his first shift of his first game, went into the boards and became paralyzed because he went into the boards head first and has been in a wheelchair ever since. But his foundation is a foundation that raises money for research for the cure to paralyzation, which, to my knowledge, or from what I've seen, they have made strides, but they have a long way to go still. So another note on this too. A lot of these players that live in the Boston or from the Boston area, they also play in a league. They have a league that gets together every week. They call it the what do they call it? The Boston Pro Sports, or the Pro Hockey League, or something Pro Summer League, I think is what it's called. There's actually a league that gets together. I think they have 4 teams that get together all summer long, all Boston area hockey players that play at a pro level of some kind. Some of these guys are college, but you've got to be a top tier, high level player to play in this league. And people go watch these games all the time.
I bet I did not know that.
Yeah, and a bunch of the players that live in the Boston area over the summer are playing in that league, and I imagine a lot of these guys are also the same. But every player in the league either plays, NHL, AHL, ECHL, college, juniors. They're just Boston natives, and they get together to once or twice a week and play games all summer long. So
very interesting.
And last summer, I think one team had Jimmy Hayes, Kevin Hayes, Jack Eichel all on the same team. So anyway, just a side note on that. So if you live in the Boston area, look for that Boston Pro Sports Summer League, or I can't remember the exact name of it, but there is a league in the Boston area that features only pro players. And it's essentially a recreational league. It's not. They don't charge admission or anything like that to those games. Okay, the next story I have is defenseman Andrew Ference announced his retirement from the NHL on Thursday after 16 seasons. He didn't play at all last year because of a hip injury that limited him to, and he only played 6 games the year before that. So he's played 6 games in the last 2 years. Decided to finally call it quits. He had 225 points in 907 games with the Oilers, Bruins, Flames, and Penguins. He was a member of the Stanley Cup Bruins winning team in 2011, and he reached the final with the Flames in 2004. He was captain of the Oilers from 2013 to 15 and won the King Clancy Memorial Trophy in 2014, an award given to the NHL player who best exemplifies leadership qualities on and off the ice. He also helped Portland of the Western Hockey League win the Memorial Cup way back in 1998 and played for Canada in the 99 IIHF World Junior Championship. He was an 8th round pick. 8th round? They don't even have an 8th round anymore.
Yeah.
by the Penguins in the 97 NHL draft. All right.
I did want to say one thing real quick if we're at a point here.
Yeah.
This is one you might not read in the NHL today, but I was a stalwart defender of the guy, and I thought he was a great player. I remember when he lost part of his ear in a high stick in 2014 in the playoffs, and that's Kevin Kline announced his retirement on July the 7th from the New York Rangers.
That. Yep, I did see that.
He announced his retirement, and he quickly signed a 2-year deal with ZSC, the Lions, in the Swiss National League.
Yep.
So I was happy to see that he got a contract there. He battled injuries last year. I'm gonna miss him. You know, he was a blood and guts defenseman for the Rangers. I don't know that anybody's gonna sit here and tout him and give him the kind of kudos maybe that I will, but I used to love to watch him play because he had passion. He played very hard, and he was a great player. So I'm gonna miss Kevin Kline. But he did hang up his skates in the NHL. So I just throw that in real quick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I did see that story, and I can't for the life of me figure out why I didn't put it in the show notes. But thanks for adding that. Now I have one last story for the week before we move on to our picks of the week, and the story that I have concerns the Hurricanes and the possible sale. Where did I tweet that out? On the 13th? Did I?
Yep. Possible sale to Chuck Greenberg.
Yep. Chuck Greenberg.
Yep.
Who is a former CEO of baseball's Texas Rangers. And the news article as it came out estimated the sale to be worth about $500 million. According to people familiar with the deal. And as part of the deal, Chuck Greenberg had agreed that the team will stay in North Carolina, which was huge news to you and I and anybody else who lives in this area who likes to go to NHL games. Because if the Hurricanes were to leave, we'd have to drive, 5 hours to the nearest game?
Yeah, we'd be going to games in Washington.
Washington would be the closest rink for us.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And, D.C. traffic and all that.
Yeah. I don't know about that. Of course, it'd be great to see the Grade A, but that's a long drive.
It is a long drive to go see a game. We'd be pretty much watching TV games. But anyway, Greenberg is just one, or the primary investor of, he's putting together a group of investors that has a mix of local to the North Carolina area and other investors. So he won't be the sole owner, but of course, instantly people started speculating that, he's from Texas. Well, that means they're going to move the team to Houston.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're getting that, but because he also owns a minor league baseball team that's based in Myrtle Beach. Can't remember the name of the Myrtle Beach team that he owns, but I mean, just because he's buying a team from not from the city that he's in doesn't necessarily mean he's going to try to move this team close to himself.
Right.
I just don't see Houston as an option for the NHL right now. Two teams in Texas, I don't buy it.
Yeah, and Houston Dallas is lucky. Houston, no way. I'll tell you, Wayne. Okay, the thing that a lot of our listeners need to understand that don't know a lot about North Carolina, in Raleigh, the Canes are the only game in town. They don't compete with a football team per se. They really don't. They don't. You take college football, and it's really not a competitive thing. They don't have baseball. They don't have basketball. That's college. And yes, there is a certain level of competition there, but when you talk about pro sports, the money is going to come in from the NHL for the NHL, and so that's a big thing. That's lucrative. That to a man of Mr. Greenberg's, experience. I'm sure that weighs heavily in his mind.
Yep.
to keep the team in Raleigh is a lucrative business deal for him, and it makes good sense.
Yep.
So
Not at $500 million though. I don't. You know.
You don't think they're worth $500 million? I think that is high, but they definitely worth more than, say, the Tampa Bay Lightning at $293 million, because Tampa Bay is competing for that dollar with the Devil Rays,
the
you got the
Buccaneers,
Orlando Magic, you know, right down the road. You know,
the Buccaneers.
Yep.
In football.
So they're worth more money than a team like that. That's my opinion.
Well, Forbes has the team listed at their value as $230 million.
Yeah,
that's what Forbes magazine says the team is worth. Now, whether they are the ultimate, authority on pro sports team values, I mean, people do take. So I don't think that is ultimately what the final deal is going to be, if the deal even goes through, because now Karmanos has come out and said, well, I may just keep the team. Right. Which we all know is crazy because of, the financial issues he's been. I mean, he's the major part of the reason why the team is in the shape that it's in, is because he hasn't been putting any investment into the team. I mean, he never did move here. Right. He's always lived in Detroit. He never made the commitment to come to this area. He pops in and out from time to time. He'll fly in from Detroit, but he's always maintained his residence in Detroit. He's never really come here at all. He's just been an absentee owner, and he's his own personal financial issues have caused him to pinch pennies with the Hurricanes, and the product on the ice has suffered because of it. They're on their way back. We both think they're a playoff team this year, but I think a new owner is definitely needed. It's been needed for a long time, and I think the final deal won't come in. They're only saying $500 million because that's what the Vegas Golden Knights spent to get into the league.
Right. But I'm going to say that I believe they're worth more than what Forbes is saying.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that Forbes, and I could be dead wrong, is taking into account the fact that is a city that has no other competing sports franchises to speak of. There's a soccer team there, but there's no other competing team. And that makes it a lucrative place to keep your hockey team.
That is that is one reason why the NHL doesn't want to leave this market, is because they know that this is a market that they own, and it's also a market that is full of people that aren't native to this area. That's what most hockey fans don't understand. They think that the Hurricanes are selling to a bunch of hicks that from North Carolina. Well, when I go to games, most of the people that I see at the games are people that have moved in from outside this area.
Right.
They're all people from up north.
There are a lot of New Yorkers. A lot of New Yorkers go to those games.
There's a lot of people from New York. There's a lot of people from Boston. There's a lot of people from the upper Midwest, so Chicago, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I mean, there's tons of people that have moved in from up north in some of the the dying industrial cities that are up there, and have come down here for the better opportunities that this area provides. I mean, I think the last time I saw a survey, this market is the second fastest growing market in the country, second to, I think, Austin, Texas. Mm-hmm. There are no cities growing faster than this area. Right. And, and it's all people moving in. It's not that they're just, multiplying like mice, It's not natives. It's just, going crazy. These are people moving into this area. They can't build houses fast enough down here. So the NHL knows what the potential is for this market, especially without having to compete with another league. Yeah, you have the Charlotte basketball team and the Charlotte football team, and you get some people who will travel to those areas for the games, but not on a night-by-night basis. Charlotte is 2.5 hours drive from Raleigh. Yeah, that's a little too far to go on a Tuesday night, and when you got to go to work Wednesday morning. So, But I still think $500 million is too much for this particular franchise, unless that purchase price includes the arena.
Right.
Which is
and
possible.
You're looking at the best arena deal in the NHL. You know, and I know you've touched on that before.
Because the parent company that owns the team also owns the arena. So what we don't know is if this deal includes the arena or if it's just the team.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
If it's just the team, $500 million's way too much. If it's the team and the arena and the you know, everything, basically if it's the team plus everything the arena is, because the Hurricanes get a cut of the parking and commissions,
right,
for every event that takes place in that arena. So concerts, monster truck, circus, you name it, everything that goes on in that arena, the Hurricanes are getting a cut of the proceeds. So, you know, that's another reason why the NHL doesn't want to have this team leave the area. So
that's right.
I don't know. More to the story than we know. We're, continuing to keep our ears on the ground on that one because, the local media is talking about it. Every time something is said about it, it doesn't always get out. Like, for example, earlier this week, Chuck Greenberg was in the Raleigh area on a quote-unquote fact-finding mission. And, it was reported here locally, but I didn't see any national news organizations pick up on that. So,
right. I look at it too, Wayne. I can tell you that eons ago, the closest place to go watch a hockey game was to go down to Atlanta.
Yep.
And you and I both know, unless they make big improvements there, that is not as good a hockey market as Raleigh. It's just not. So Raleigh is done very well for themselves.
Yep.
And I'm going to stick up for things. I think the Carolina Hurricanes are worth more than $230 million. I think that's too small to pay. And I agree with you. You throw in the arena, and then you're talking money. So.
Yep. Another note too. Greenberg also was in on the deal that transferred the ownership of the Pittsburgh Penguins to Mario Lemieux. He was part of that deal.
Well, I heard about that.
And if you remember, older hockey fans will remember how that went. Pittsburgh Penguins were bankrupt, and they owed Mario Lemieux a lot of money. He had a big contract, and they weren't paying him for a while, and that team almost packed up and left town. I mean, they were actually in worse shape than the Hurricanes are now. They were just about, there was talk that the Penguins are going to move, and, no one's going to the games, and, attendance is bad. The ownership is horrible. They can't pay Mario Lemieux his contract, so they ended up working out a deal that basically transferred ownership of the team to him, just as a way to compensate him for not paying his contract. So if you think back there, any team can be in trouble financially. Sure. It can happen to anybody. It happened to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and look where they are now.
Yep. And boy, what a deal was that for Mario Lemieux.
Yep.
Oh my God. Now that team with a new arena.
Yep.
3 Stanley Cup banners in the last 7 years, 8 years. He's looking really good.
Yep, they've come a long, long way. But yeah, Greenberg was a part of that deal. He was, I don't know if he was a minority owner or, I don't remember the details, but he was, an intricate part of that deal anyway. I think he was as a lawyer, helping the new ownership group acquire that team. So yeah. Anyway, that's enough about the Canes. We'll let everybody know as we hear any news on that one. All right, let's move on to our picks of the week and get this thing wrapped up. I'll go ahead and knock mine out.
Okay.
'Cause all I have is just a couple on personal note. We mentioned in the last week's podcast that I had gone to the Carolina Hurricanes development camp, and we were going to talk about it last week, but then the show ran long, and I forgot about it. And anyway,
Yeah.
so I did go to that camp. Went to one night and then watched a couple of other sessions during the week that they streamed online. And I was very impressed with some of the players that they had at that camp. Obviously one of them signed Nikash, the kid that they drafted in the first round. They picked him up. Signed him to a deal, which I was kind of surprised because at the end of camp they were saying, he's got to get stronger, he's got to get bigger before he can make the club. So I don't expect the Hurricanes, or I don't expect Nikash to actually make the club. Coming out of camp, I think he'll end up back in juniors, but anyway, they did sign him, but he is going to be a very nice player for them going forward. Two other players that really impressed me were Julien Gauthier and Jake Bean. I actually think both of them have a real good shot at making the team this fall.
Oh, yeah.
Jake Bean's a defenseman, and Julien Gauthier is a right winger. Both were all three of those players, Nikash, Gauthier, Jake Bean, all stood out above and beyond everybody else that was there that day.
Very interesting.
Or that during that week of practice. Basically, it was just mostly prospects that had yet to sign contracts. So some of the other players we'd seen in the past, Fleury and Nedeljkovic, the goaltender, some of these other players that they've had in the past were not there this year. But everybody else. I do know that the coaching staff said this was the most talented group they've ever had. From top to bottom. So that was a good sign.
Yeah, we're going to need to go to a Checkers game, Wayne.
Probably.
We really sounds like, and I've never been to one down there. I'd be honest with you.
Yep.
We're going to need to go because I think this is really turning into a year for them. Plus, I need to learn more about the Hurricanes. That's a good way to do it.
I went to one Checkers game when they were still playing in the arena where the NBA team plays. And that arena was set up similar to the Islanders arena where the seats on the lower bowl at one end just were folded back in order to make room for the ice. It was a similar situation. It's an arena built for basketball, and they had to make room for the hockey rink by taking away those lower bowl seats at one end. And the rink's off-centered to the scoreboard and that whole. Basically, this is the exact same setup with what they have at the Barclays Center. But they have since moved into Bojangles Coliseum, which is kind of like a miniature dome stadium. It's built more for an American Hockey League. It's a smaller arena, only seats 10,000 or so. I've yet to go see a game there. But yeah, we should probably make plans to go to a game. It'll be a hell of a lot cheaper than going to the Hurricanes game.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But the other thing I wanted to note on that visit to Canes development camp is I met up with a guy that I've been reffing with off and on over the past several years. Well, his son, I've mentioned him on the show a couple of times in the past. Tyler Weiss is his son's name. He's playing for the National Development Program. He'll be on the under-18 team this year, which is the team that'll be traveling around, playing a mostly Division I college schedule. They'll play a bunch of teams around the NCAA. And then, of course, a lot of those players will end up over in the World Juniors, or some of them will end up on the World Juniors. Anyway, I talked to his dad about the college process, how he came to choose BU, and of course I was kind of interested with my affiliation with Maine. Not that I'm affiliated with them, but I went to school there, and it's the program I know best in college anyway. And he said that Maine had recruited him hard, but when they went to visit BU, it became basically a no-brainer. I mean, BU is just a much better program if you're an aspiring NHL player. It's just a much better program than Maine is at this moment in time. So that was kind of interesting to get some insight in terms of that process. And they were essentially there so that Tyler could see what it's like to do one of those camps, because he'll probably be in one of those next year.
Mm-hmm.
He is. When the initial list of draft picks came out for next year's draft,
Mm-hmm.
right after the draft, they usually send out a list. Okay, here's the players to watch for next year, right?
Right.
Tyler's on that list, so he's probably not projected to be a first rounder unless he makes some big improvements this year. But he is on the list. He'll probably end up being drafted. So it's kind of neat to see kind of an inside look, because it's a family I know. So and he's a good kid. He really is a good kid. So he's worked really, really hard to get where he is, and he's everybody who knows the family is very excited for his future. So even though he is playing for a college program that I vowed to hate when I was young myself, so but I'm still cheering on the kid. He's
very good.
He's a good kid. So all right, the other thing that I had going on over the past week, of course, I went on vacation, and we made it on our way up through. We made a stop in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And one of the places, we did some sightseeing around Manhattan. We went to Rockefeller Plaza, basically everything that's right around that part of town. So Rockefeller Plaza, I'd always wanted to see what St. Patrick's Cathedral looked like, in person. So we went over there. All of it's right in that general vicinity. And of course, my daughter wanted to go to a comic book store at Times Square. So we walked over that way. Well, on our way to Times Square, we happened to pass by NHL headquarters.
Yeah.
And the NHL store right there on the Avenue of Americas in Manhattan. So we took a look inside. The store was a lot smaller than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I was thinking the store would be bigger. I don't know. Have you been? Have you been to
I've
that
been
store?
there half a dozen times, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I went there back when the old NHL show, the afternoon show, used to be broadcast out of that studio that they have upstairs.
Yes.
That's been 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, they're not using that anymore.
Right.
But the studio's still there, so they could use it.
They could.
It's still there. It looks like they're using it for storage. It looked like it was, from what I could tell from downstairs, it looked like that room was all filled with a bunch of boxes and stuff.
Yeah.
So what I'm guessing, it was probably the boxes holding all of the new Adidas jerseys that are about to come out.
Yeah. And that's probably true.
Because I asked the guy who was working there, one of the guys that was working there, I said, you guys have the new Adidas jerseys yet? He says, no. They don't come out till, I think he gave me the date. I can't remember what it was. His date in August, I think. He said late July, early August, something like that. He didn't give me a firm date. He just said, they're not coming out for another few weeks. And I said, he said, but we're having a huge sale on these jerseys. And he quoted prices. I think authentic jerseys, like the 100% authentics with the fight strap and everything, I think he quoted $130 for those at the time. I think they've since gone down even further. And replicas for $75.
Wow, the authentics are $130?
Yeah.
For the new Adidas?
No. This is the Reeboks.
The old Reeboks, okay.
Yeah. So basically they're trying to sell through all the Reeboks.
Right.
And they put the entire store on sale in terms of jerseys. And I didn't buy any.
Oh.
I didn't buy any, but because I've got most of the jerseys I already wanted. But yeah, they did put them on pretty steep discount. But you could get, I think blank jerseys were $75 for replicas and $130 for authentics, and then jerseys with numbers and names were a little bit more than that. But They're normally like $400 or something ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
For Authentics.
But I will tell you that if you do have the need for authentic jerseys, those guys there, I bought a jersey from the NHL store in Manhattan, and it's a great place. And you will pay a little more, perhaps, but they will make sure you won't pay a lot more. You'll pay a little more, but they will make sure and get the stitching professionally done. It's literally Henrik Lundqvist jersey is one he would wear on the ice.
Yep.
And those guys know what they're talking about. They're smart. They're smart people there. You can cut a deal with them. Just call the NHL store in Manhattan, and they'll take care of you. As I said, I've dealt with them before. Actually, a shirt for my wife as well. So, I'm excited just listening to you talk about it because I love to go there. It's a lot of fun. If you're in New York
store. Yeah.
You're missing out. It's a great store.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I took the opportunity to go, and then I joked with my kids. I said, "Well, while we're here, why don't we go upstairs and have a talk with Gary Bettman? I got a few things I want to say to him." My daughter's like, "Yeah, Dad, I don't think they're gonna just let you stroll into Gary Bettman's office."
That's great. That's great.
But and of course, he probably wasn't there either. It's the middle of summer.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's at a cabin in Canada somewhere, like all the rest of the NHL is right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it was good. It was good fun there at the store. They had a lot of good stuff, and stuff I had seen online mostly anyway. But they had that wall of hats that the draft players at the draft would go up and pick a hat. They pretty much had that all set up with all the draft hats for sale.
Yeah. Wow.
Right there. And then they had, jerseys. I mean, they had jerseys for every team. They had, except for Vegas. There was no jersey for them yet. Those will come out when the new Adidas jerseys come out. But, they had a little bit of everything. And people there were very friendly. The people that worked there. It was a nice-looking store, clean.
Yeah.
But I did notice the studio upstairs, and that they were basically just using it for storage. And I was surprised at how small that studio was.
Yeah,
that thing was tiny.
Yep.
Probably not even bigger than the room that I'm sitting in now. I mean, that's how small that studio was.
Yep.
So,
I agree.
But it was interesting. Interesting stop for us.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear your story.
Mine, Wayne, thank you very much for that. I love going to the NHL store, so I appreciated hearing about that. But listen, here's a guy who has not just had one bad injury happen to him, Chris Letang. He has gone through some very difficult times. He had a stroke. His family feared for his life there for a while.
Yep.
And his health. If for every reason in the book, Chris Letang doesn't have to do this. The Stanley Cup comes to his house. He could have his family over and have a great time. But he doesn't do that. When it comes his time to get the Stanley Cup, Chris Letang takes the Stanley Cup to a Quebec hospital, a children's hospital, and I wanted to tell you about it. Defenseman who didn't play during the postseason put smiles on children's faces with his visit. Chris Letang's day with the Stanley Cup continued the trend of sharing the trophy with children in Quebec. The Pittsburgh Penguins defenseman started with what has become a traditional breakfast of cereal from the cup with his son Alex at their home in Montreal. After eating, Letang and his wife Catherine Laflamme went to St. Justin Children's Hospital, where the trophy helped make the day of some young boys and girls. Letang, 30, did not play for the Penguins during the postseason run to the championship last season because of a herniated disc in his neck that required season-ending surgery in April. He had 5 goals and 29 assists in 41 games during the regular season. "My health is the least of my concerns," Letang said. "Whatever I have to experience in a hockey rink is nowhere close to what a defenseless 5-year-old child has to endure.
These kids are full of courage. It's a pleasure for me to bring them a bit of happiness. Seeing as I was less involved in this championship, it's a perfect year to give back as much as I can. I have the opportunity to make a difference, and I'm trying to take full advantage of it. Sunday was Letang's third day with the Cup in his 10-season NHL career. Last year, after serving as an integral part for the Penguins' Stanley Cup victory, Letang's day with the trophy included a trip to a rink in the Montreal suburb of Saint-Julie, Quebec, I hope I pronounced that right, to share the cup with youth hockey players. This third Stanley Cup is different from the first two, he said. I'm a bit less emotional because I was less involved. It's thanks to my teammates that I had the chance to enjoy it. Letang said he likes the Penguins' chances to win the Cup for a third straight year, something that hasn't been done since the Islanders won the final 3 of 4 straight titles from 1981 to 1983. Why not go for 3 in a row? I think we have the team to do it. And so my hat's off to Chris Letang. That's a wonderful thing to do with the Stanley Cup. And, as I said, he could have spent the time with his family or went to his high school or something like that. That's really amazing what he did. And no, I don't think the Penguins are going to win 3 Stanley Cups in a row, but I ain't going to put money on that.
Yeah, I think they're still going to be a good team, but the salary cap has kind of cut into that team a little bit. So, they're going to come back down to earth this year, but they'll still be a strong team overall.
Oh, yeah. Playoff bound, sure.
Great story on Chris Letang because, and a lot of players, to give them credit too. There are a lot of players that when they get their day with the Cup, they usually do something for themselves. Yeah. And just their immediate family, something quiet like, I've seen pictures where they take it out on the boat and, just something for themselves. And then they do something for their community that they grew up in, like for the general public. And then they usually do something charitable where they visit a children's hospital or, wounded warriors, whatever they feel, they choose to do. But most players are pretty generous with their time with the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
They don't just keep it just for themselves for the whole day. Almost never do I see a player that said, "Oh no, I just had it at my camp all day. That was my day with the Cup."
Right.
No, they're very generous with to share it with the people that got them to where they are. So, but kudos to Letang for that, and Letang, sorry, but yeah, great story.
Yeah.
So cool. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up basically the show at this point. Like I said in the beginning, there's one other topic I want to talk about, but we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show as of right now. And those of you who are interested in hearing about fantasy hockey, stick to the end of this show. If you're not interested in fantasy hockey, you essentially can, stop listening to the show now and move on to whatever next podcast you have. But and we'll go ahead and wrap that up or wrap up our regular show real quick, and then we'll move on to the fantasy hockey bit. And like I said, if you want to get in touch with the show, you can reach us at feedback@thehockeynuts.com, or you can tweet us. I'm at Wayne Halley 9. Steve is at SBall504man. You can reach us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/thehockeynuts. And you can reach us through our YouTube channel at hockeynuts.com/YouTube. And as far as next week's show, it's pretty much going to be more of the same, more signings, any news that comes up. It's we're in the dog days of summer now, so not a whole lot's going on. So we're having to reach a little bit to give to give some content. So we got basically one more show of that kind of stuff to do, and then we get into our team by team previews, starting with the show following. So the next scheduled recording of our show I've got written down as August 16th. It's a Wednesday, could be plus or minus. We might do it on Tuesday or Thursday, depending on how you and I and our work schedule plays out. we'll as we get closer, we'll know more on that. But tentatively, August 16th is our next scheduled recording of the podcast. All right. So let's go ahead and end things for now on that side of it. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Good night, Wayne.
All right. Good night. All right. I'm stopping that recording, then I'll start a new recording.
Okay.
Just it'd be easier for editing purposes.
Okay.
And if you need to go, you can. You can stick around if you want.
I'm gonna go because I got to be up. Actually, not as bad, but around 4 o'clock, 4:30 tomorrow.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'm not getting up that early, but I am getting up. I'm
gonna get a little shut eye. But it was great working with you tonight,
right.
and we will. I'll be back in touch with you. I wanted to ask you a couple questions about when I get these reports of the geo cities and the states and stuff, but I can do that at another time, and we can talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't want to do it tonight, that's fine.
Yeah, but we'll talk about it, and it's nothing important. But anyways, exciting. I think it was a really good show. Even though we didn't have the kind of information we do a lot of times, I think we did really well.
Yeah, and once I eliminate all the silences out of it, it will tighten that show up. Because we did have a lot of silent pauses there.
Yeah.
So
well, listen. Have a good night.
All right, you too.
I'll be back in touch with you soon. We'll keep tabs on each other till the next one comes up.
Will do.
Take care.
All right, have a good night, Steve.
We'll be in touch with you.
All right, goodbye.
Bye now.
All right. I know I'm still streaming. Just got to get the right windows up here. Let's just pull up a new window. Wow. It hasn't changed over to the new system or new year yet. Okay. 20, yeah. I'm going to wait on that. All right. I'm going to put that up on the monitor here. And this is still showing last season. Okay. Let's get the right window up here. There we go. All right, so if you're still listening to this podcast, you've obviously reached the part of the podcast where we talk about fantasy hockey. Steve has never played fantasy hockey, and to this point, he hasn't been very much interested in it, so this is kind of a me thing. But I've been playing fantasy hockey this particular league actually started back in the year 2000, 1999, somewhere around there. So it's been going on a long, long time. Actually, we took last season off. We didn't do the league last year. So last year was the first year we didn't do it. So the league currently has a setup of 10 teams. Yes, 10 teams at this point. And being we took a year off, I know of only 2 other players in the league that I know for sure is definitely coming back. But what I'm going to be doing is opening up this league to listeners of our podcast, because if you're listening to the podcast, you're obviously a pretty big hockey fan, and I think the audience of this podcast would be a good place to look for new owners. I'd like to get this team. We were once as big as 16 teams. I don't want to go that big, but the league currently is at 10 teams, and I'd like to get it to 14. Now, here's how the league works. It's a head-to-head league, similar to like fantasy football would be, where you play. There's let's just assume we're going to get to 14 teams. There's 14 teams, and teams play each other in a schedule, and then we move on to a playoff. Now, we have a relatively short regular season of 18 to 19 weeks, and then we move on to playoffs, and the playoffs generally are best of 2, best of 3 series. I've never liked the format of you play 25 weeks, and then the last 3 weeks of the season, when NHL teams are resting their players, their best players, as much as possible, is when you would have your playoffs in a single game elimination. We do our league a little bit differently, where we have a shorter regular season, and out of 14 teams, 8 will make the playoffs. So if you're not a strong team in the first, we've been running 18 to 19 week regular season, and then the NHL season runs anywhere from 26 to 27 weeks. So the first 18 or so weeks would be regular season, and then the next 9 weeks or so would be playoffs. And then we found in all the years that we've been doing the league that this format works best because our playoff format is so long. You really need to have a good team to win this league. You don't have where you would have a 3-week playoff. You would have, just all you have to do is get hot and you can win, for 3 weeks, and then you can win the league. Our league doesn't work that way. You have to be a strong team overall in order to win the league, and the stronger teams in the past have won it on a quite regular basis. So, with that in mind, here's how it's going to work. We're going to be trying to go for 14 teams. So if you are interested in joining this league, send me an email at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. Let me know your name and any general information, basically saying that you are interested in joining the Fantasy Hockey League. And we'll probably not be doing our draft until probably a week to 2 weeks at most before opening night of the NHL. We do our draft real late so that if any players get hurt during the preseason, you don't get screwed, basically. We try to have the draft as late as possible. And the way the format works for this league, it is a keeper league. However, you carry, I can't remember what it was. I think you carry a total of about 20 to 22 players on your roster total. But as of right now, we only keep 3 players from season to season. So we do have a fairly long draft every year. And it's set up so that if you do have a bad year, it doesn't penalize you for years and years to come. Additionally, every 4 years, and it actually coincides with the Olympics, we draft our entire team from scratch. So the longest, say you end up with Sidney Crosby, for example, or Connor McDavid, the longest you would get to keep that player is 4 years at the most. Obviously, you could trade him and, so on and so on. But we designed it in such a way that we don't have one team holding one player for their entire year. It kind of mixes things up. So, and this happens to be an Olympic year, so this particular season, once we get going, the 14 teams will be drafting their teams from scratch. So there's no keepers for this particular season. So getting in this season is probably the best time to get in because we're essentially starting this league from scratch. Everyone starts with no players. We have 2 confirmed owners for sure. One is a friend of mine. One is a cousin of mine. I've yet to reach out to all the other owners in the league, some of which have been in the league since day one. So I imagine a few of those guys will come back. But as of right now, I have at least 4 openings and probably as many as 10 openings in this league for anyone who wants to join. So again, if you want to join the league, send me an email, feedback@thehockeynuts.com. I can send you more details on rules and such. As you can see on, if you're watching on the YouTube stream, the league right now is currently locked. We use the CBS Fantasy Hockey Commissioner product. The league is currently locked because we didn't have a season last year. We didn't pay the fee to get the service activated. And the league right now is still currently on last season. If you look right at the bottom of the screen right there, it shows 2016 league, which tells me that it's still locked on last season. I expect them to turn over the league to the new season very shortly, in which case we'll have a short grace period of being able to use the league without incurring any fees. But this particular product I use with CBS does cost money. I'm not sure how much it's going to be. The full price is $150, but I usually get in when the price is at the introductory rate. So with that said, the league's not going to be free to play if you want to play. In years past, we've charged $50 a team, and then all the money goes into a pool, and we use that money to pay for the CBS Fantasy software, whatever that costs, and then whatever is left from that, the money goes into a pool, and the winner gets, I can't remember the exact percentages. I think it's 80 for the winner, 20 for the second place. No, 70 for the winner, 20 for the second place, 10 for the third place. Or no, 5 for the third place. I can't remember what it is, but the winner gets some. The second place gets a little. The third place gets a little, even a little bit less. And then we also have an overall points leader for the one who gets the team that gets the most fantasy points over the whole course of the season. They would get a little something, but it's really little. The majority of the money goes to the winner of the league at this, the way our league is set up. And the way it's set up is, the way the games work is you're matched up against another team each week. And your players, based on the stats that they accrue, will earn points. So you get, for example, 4 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. There's a number of different statistical categories, and everything accrues points. And that point total for the week versus the team that you're playing, their point total, whoever ends up with the most points gets the win. Whoever doesn't gets the loss for the week. And then you move on to the next week. You play a different opponent. And again, goes point total versus point total. And you earn a win or a loss depending on how many points you earn versus your other team. And then at the end of the season, you end up with a record of like the last year we played, we were 18 teams. So the best team in the league ended up being 14-4. The worst team in the league ended up being 4-14. Everybody else was in between. And then the top 8 teams out of the league go to the playoffs, and then we do a tournament format that way. So that's how the league works. If you're interested, send me an email. I can get you more information when I have it available to me. Right now, I can't do anything until they turn over the league into this next season. So that being said, that's the Fantasy Hockey League. We're going to talk about it each week on the show. So if you join the league, we'll be talking about your team, and we'll be going from there. So if you're into fantasy hockey, I can guarantee you're going to have fun with our league. So send me a note, and we'll get you started. So that's it, and hope to hear from you soon. All right, that's going to be the end of the stream for tonight. So we'll see you next time. Coming up on this episode of the Hockey Nuts, Steve and I get you caught up with all of the player transactions that have been going on since we last recorded. Free agency and player signings are the biggest part of the news at this time of year, and every team is working hard to fill all of their vacant roster spots. We'll also have ownership news coming out of our local team, the Carolina Hurricanes. And we'll have all the details of all this and more coming up next. This is the Hockey Nuts Podcast, Season 2, Episode 2, recorded on Wednesday, July 26, 2017. More free agent signings.